Welcome back to the Chevy Corvette C7 rebuild. For this video, I have some big plans. First things first, I want to remove the remaining fiberglass damage, which is this fender carrier. Then I want to remove some suspension pieces that got damaged. And lastly, the big surprise is I got a few of the body panels back from the paint shop. So it'd be time to put the trunk lid and rear quarter panel back on the car. Let's get going. Here's all the parts I picked up today. Everything from fender liners to suspension pieces, to fender pieces, bumper pieces, it's all here. As I mentioned in a previous video, this fender carrier and headlight housing support is all one big piece. So I need to get this off, but the best way to do it, it appears, is literally just to rip the fiberglass right off of the adhesive. But before I do that, I'm gonna mark around some of these frame areas where it lines up so that when I have to glue the new piece on, I have a rough idea of where it needs to go. Now that I got the outline kind of marked roughly, I think I need to take off a few auxiliary items off of this before I can break it off. Here's the hood latch, and I think this fuse box might actually have to get moved or removed. I got the bolts removed from the fuse box studs, but I'm gonna see if I can actually leave the box in and just kind of pull the fender carrier out from around it. I got 2 layers of gloves on because I do not want to get fiberglass in me. It's time to start ripping this part out. With just a couple tugs and pulls, this thing is not budging. I think it's gonna be a lot more difficult to remove than I thought it was gonna be. I might have to take the grinder and cut some pieces off in sections or something like that. We'll see. I am gonna want to save this foam piece, so I'm gonna take that off now. And I'll just re-adhere it to the new piece. It exposed a little bit more so I can kind of see what I'm doing. Let's see if a Sawzall will work to kind of break it up into sections. The theme of nothing is easy continues with this car. Removing all of the fiberglass took a lot longer than I expected. I'm gonna put the trunk lid back on so there's no more plastic covering the opening, and I'll have the fresh trunk lid. So check this out. This is one of the pieces that had damage here in the rear quarter. You'd never even know. He filled the fiberglass, then painted it, and then I'll get the old paint cleaned up, obviously. We'll clay bar it, and it should match exactly. I'm pretty happy with these gaps here. This one seems a little bit large, but I think it's because this piece opens for the convertible top. So I look back here, and it doesn't look like it's pushed backwards much. Once I get the bumper, it's still kind of loose because I gotta get this other quarter back on it. Once the bumper goes back, I may adjust it a little bit, but for now, I'm gonna call this good. Let me show you what I have come up with to address that adhesive issue. As you can see, the adhesive is on here. It's very, very thick, and it's as hard as a rock. However, as I've been thinking about this, I have come up with a solution, and it's to use a multi-tool to get underneath the adhesive and saw it off this way, and then I come in from the top. Before I hit the metal, I just go down and take out chunks about 1 inch at a time. And here is a spot that I've already done, and I've left some of the factory adhesive as shims so that I know the height to put the new adhesive on, because this stuff acts as like a gapping tool for the fender itself. So if I removed all of this, I would not know how thick to put it on, which then would make the carrier either come out too far or too close, and then would affect the fender lines. So I'm leaving bits of this as shims. I'm gonna knock down the top just ever so slightly so that I could fill adhesive in here and a little bit on top without affecting the gapping. But that's the plan. So I already got this spot done. I removed a piece on this guy, but still need to do this section and this section. Unfortunately, yesterday the multi-tool overheated, so I wasn't able to finish cutting away the rest of the glue, so that's the plan for right now. Also, the plan is to remove the broken suspension pieces. The old glue has finally been prepped to where I believe there's enough exposed metal so that when I put the new adhesive, there's no issues. Now I'm gonna take this grinder with a sanding wheel. This should be rough enough just to knock the top off of what's left. That actually went surprisingly better than I thought it would. That sanding wheel made it incredibly easy. And I don't know if you could tell from the video footage, but as I ground it down, a gray color appeared instead of the black. So I was able to kind of get a gauge on how deep I was going and do it all uniformly. I think we're gonna be good. Now I gotta get this mess cleaned up. Before actually I clean the mess up, I wanna go ahead and get these broken suspension parts off. This is gonna go in the pile of parts that I think are no good. I didn't want to take the risk given that it was a split right here. I was afraid it might have been bent a little bit, and for like the 80 bucks, I'd rather just replace it. Trying to keep all the bolts so I know where they all go and put them back in the same order. I wasn't filming because I didn't think it would actually work, but just with a few hits of a hammer, it slipped right out. It looks like the pin or bolt that holds it is kind of tapered so that it gets pressed on with pressure. I'm gonna mount this to the frame first and then this last. That feels pretty good. I don't have any play now. I'm gonna try to set it down and let's kind of see what happens. Let's get the shock put on, and then I think the suspension is done. All right, that looks pretty good. I am gonna have to bring this control arm up a bit, maybe about a ½ inch, so that it can come up and meet the bottom of that shock. Here is the freshly painted rear quarter panel that was damaged. And then I gotta flip it over and re-adhere a few pieces that I took off for the paint guy. I didn't know what he would need prepped. Some clips need to go here, some clips for airbag sensors there. I'm just using a little bit of 3M double-sided tape to get these clips to stick back onto the fender. Seems to be working really well and it's strong. And I gotta run the little tube in those clips that I adhered. Okay, I'm pretty stoked. It's a little bit hard to see with the glare, but the body gaps line up perfectly. The paint matches perfectly. Obviously that piece up there is still dirty. It all lines up here great. All the screw holes. So I'm just gonna start getting these screws put back in, and then I'm gonna have to re-bolt the bumper to it and this arch liner. But got it in, no scratches, no damage. I'm feeling great. Let's keep grinding. All right, the final touches are going on the bumper. I'm gonna get this grill, put it back on. Then I'm gonna put on the wing. I gotta remove some of this old double-sided tape first. So I'll put the little spoiler wing back on. I think this is pretty darn good. I think it's centered. I'm just gonna push down, make sure all the corners are pushed down. But I mean, it feels very sturdy. So I'm gonna count that as a win. I have the seatbelts mocked up in here. As you can see, here's the ends and they're just loosely bolted in right now. You have to get into the trunk and there's a little piece of carpet in the way, but you can see the silver seatbelt actuator. Right below that is a bolt I have to get to and I can get them installed. In the clips, I have a new clip for the recline motion and a new clip or harness to hold it up here because that broke in the accident. So in the previous video, you saw how hard it was to get the old clock spring and angle sensor out. This is a brand new clock spring. I took the old angle sensor, which was fine, connected to the back and put this on. This came verified center. If you were to buy this from GM, I don't think it's centered. I bought it from a clock spring website. So I just gotta get 4 bolts put in here and get some of these wires hooked up. Clock spring is bolted in and the wires in the back are plugged in and the angle sensor is plugged in as well. So I got the bottom piece on. Okay, got the fascia into place very easily. Also tighten these bolts down. Slowly but surely starting to look like a car again. That bolt that holds the steering wheel on has been torqued to spec. And then here is the new airbag. Just a couple clips in the back. We're making progress. Since I was rushing at the end of the last video, I forgot to shoot an outro. That is why I haven't shaven and things. It's the next day. But anyways, this is the outro. Part 4 coming very soon. Sit tight.